What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 44, Episode 6, the Earn the Merge episode. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I feel like this episode was just kind of like it's not a merge episode, so I feel like I can't compare it to other merge episodes. But if it was a merge episode, it would be one of my least favorite merge episodes. So this episode did not hit for me.
Yeah, it was okay. I feel like definitely last week I thought was fine. 2 weeks ago, I think was like the best episode of the season I thought thus far. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see, okay, we have like a Josh downfall storyline that's been going on for like the past 3 or 4 episodes, and now it's finally come to fruition. So, like, great, he's got a little storyline over a few episodes, but it just sort of felt like, okay, Josh was saved last week when he was probably going to get voted out, and then, okay, now he finally gets voted out.
Yeah, and I don't know. People kept mentioning like, oh, Josh has had it coming for like 3 weeks, or I guess 3 weeks our time, but like several days in the Survivor game. And so it's kind of just like, can we stop beating the dead horse here?
Yeah, take a shot every time someone says, "Oh, Josh has 9 lives," or "Oh, we've been targeting Josh since Soka days," or "Oh, Josh was supposed to go home on green, then he was supposed to go home on purple, and now he's saved. Now he has to go home."
Yeah. So it felt like very redundant. I feel like one of the only good things about this episode is we finally saw Heidi. Like she exists. They mentioned her several times. She got a whole confessional. I was like, wow, Heidi, you're here, buddy. So,
So we start the Earn the Merge episode pre-merge. Carson is telling Orange about the idol that he got on the journey. He's basically saying, yeah, I got this idol, but it has no more power anymore once everyone is on the same beach. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I mentioned that when Alyssa was out that week and I was podcasting alone. If anyone noticed the wording of the note that came with the idol, because that's what I was saying. If they noticed the wording, they would sort of presume, okay, it's not going to be a real merge, but it's going to be an fake merge and earn the merge situation. So I thought it was cool to see Carson realize the wording on that paper.
yeah. So I love you, Carson. I feel like this episode was definitely maybe not the best for Carson. He had people telling him that what he did was stupid, but you know, it was cool to see him recognize that little bit of wording too.
Yeah, we also see Lauren tells Orange about the extra vote before they merge. So now everyone there knows that she has the extra vote. She won it at the first journey trip. So that's interesting because I feel like we haven't really seen too much of Lauren. And from like Matthew's exit interviews, he was saying Lauren maybe would have been the next one to go on Orange. So it'll be fascinating to see, okay, Lauren telling them about the advantage, will it help her get like ingratiated with them more now that Matthew's gone? Or will they use it to target her like, yo, she's got an extra vote, we need to vote her out?
Yeah, it's interesting because Josh having an idol didn't really seem to come up as far as deciding to vote for him. It was more just that Josh maybe having an idol changed how they strategized around the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like in previous seasons, someone having an idol would be like, oh, we're just not going to vote for them at all. So I wonder if that will kind of reflect onto Lauren and her advantage. I think it's interesting because Lauren's bank a vote is different from steal a vote. And with steal a vote, you get a bigger swing because you can potentially take a number away from the other side while adding to yours. But with steal a vote, you can only add a vote to your side. So it doesn't matter in a group of like 12, if everyone wants to vote out Lauren, it's not going to be like, oh yeah, 11-2 is not any different from 11-1 in terms of, you know, who goes home.
Yeah, I mean, the extra vote will be probably very powerful if they do the split tribal council at 10, where it's 5-5. Then having an extra vote there will be very useful, which is what we were saying on the Russell Muscle TV podcast the other week, where people can strategize around, okay, final 10 is going to be some kind of fancy tribal, final 8 might be a fancy tribal. So let's play it safe until we get to final 8, final 10, because we know those are going to be a little different. It's not a regular tribal council. And if Lauren is thinking, I would be thinking, yo, final 10, she could make a big move, because at a 5-person tribal council, having that extra vote is really, really powerful.
Yeah, but that's only if they don't do some sort of gimmick for Final 10. So,
yeah, the gimmick is 2 tribes of 5, which then she could easily, if it's split maybe, 3-2, she could tie it up 3-3, or she could try to pull one there to make it 4-2 rather than 3-2.
yeah. But I will say, I know we've complained about this before, but one of my least favorite parts about the not merge is that like half the people are safe. And it's like, in a tribe of 12, you shouldn't have 6 people safe. Like, that's not fun. So,
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about it now. This is the 4th iteration, but it would be interesting, instead of 2 teams of 6 that are safe, maybe smaller teams. So 3 teams of 4, only 4 people are safe and 8 people are still up for elimination. Or instead of random draw, they do like team captains, and then the team captains get to pick their team. So it makes it more fascinating. Okay, if team captains are random, but then you stack your team, you're not going to pick all of your alliance members for your team, but maybe you'll pick some people that you don't really like as like easy fodder to get voted out. I don't know. I think there's a lot more strategy if they didn't do random teams here. And like you're saying, less people are safe.
yeah. And also, just one thing that made it difficult this time around was the fact that the um, the teams were so unbalanced in terms of the purple team just crushed the orange team. Like, it was not close at all. And they couldn't even edit it to try and make it seem close. And I feel like when it's a blowout, it feels even worse. So, yeah.
So, pre-immunity challenge, we also see Josh telling people that he has the green cage idol when everyone is on the same beach, as the note says. As, okay, I have the green cage idol. This is my, fake real idol. The idol I used last time was the idol I got on the journey. But Josh tells Jamie, okay, I actually have a fake idol. Jamie is the only person that he told the truth to, but Jamie doesn't believe that the idol is fake. Matt also has this information too, which I thought was weird, because Matt thinks that he found the cage idol. And then in Josh's exit interviews, he was saying, yeah, Matt is starting to think that his idol was fake. That's why Matt believed that Josh had the real cage idol. And they're like, that's just conflicting information. If you're Matt, you would be like, Josh, you can't have the cage idol. I have the cage idol, because they're both claiming the cage idol. But it's interesting to hear that they're thinking Matt's idol is fake, and Matt is starting to think his idol is fake.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting information. I thought it was very interesting. Carolyn was talking about how like she straight up told people that Josh's idol was fake, and like no one believed her. And I was like, are people not believing you, or are people just trying to take into account the fact that there is a lot of conflicting information and they have no reason to believe you over Josh?
Which is interesting. So it's like, okay, did someone who found the real birdcage idol start to tell people that, yeah, there are fake idols in this game? Like maybe Danny told Heidi, yeah, I planted a fake idol. Matt has my fake idol. I got the fake idol from the birdcage. And that's where like this chatter is coming from, because there's no reason to suspect for Matt that he got a fake idol from the birdcage. So it's like, okay, something must be happening there where they're sharing this information for people to even suspect that their idols are fake and not real when you have the paperwork. So I feel like someone that we haven't seen on screen must be sharing the cage idol information, which I wish we got some of that information. If Carolyn is secretly telling people, or Danny, or even Brandon, like that'd be cool to see. Okay, are they using that information to their advantage?
Yeah, and again, I feel like this is kind of an editing thing where I would rather have a clip of someone like telling someone else that fake idols exist and can come from the birdcage than like the 8th repetition of Josh has 9 lives. So I feel like editing wise, maybe there was no good footage. Maybe there's a like maybe it's a subtextual reason rather than a conversation that someone had.
Mm-hmm.
But just, ugh.
Which even maybe a Danny confessional, because Danny knows he has the real birdcage idol from Soka, so he would know Josh is lying and Josh has a fake idol. Danny also knows that Matt found the key, so Matt probably has Danny's fake birdcage idol. So Danny has all of the information. It would have been cool to see maybe a Danny confessional like, yeah, Josh is lying, but I'm not going to contradict his story. Let Carolyn go off and say that Josh is lying, but I'm just going to pretend like he's telling the truth. I'm not going to say anything to maybe keep in Josh's good graces, something like that. But like, Danny knows all the info, but he wasn't really standing up for Josh or throwing Josh under the bus.
Yeah, which is weird because Danny eventually voted for Josh. So it's kind of like, what's going on there, you know? Where it doesn't seem like if he wanted to get Josh out, it doesn't seem like it benefits him at all to, like, you know, keep Josh in his good graces.
Yeah, so we also see Carolyn not gelling much with the merged tribe, which really felt like a throwback to like the premiere episode when she was on Purple. She was sort of feeling left out on her original tribe too. And I was like, oh, I can relate there. Talking in large group situations like that is very hard. 11 other people. I much prefer smaller group conversations or even one on one conversations. So I can see how, like, being thrown into this group where you're meeting a ton of new people can be very, like, anxiety inducing and scary. And you might not gel with everyone immediately.
Yeah, and I feel like especially a big group of people like that, like even 6 people is a lot to kind of just
Mm-hmm.
be like, hey, we're all supposed to be friends now. But 12 people, especially because like I think it's also hard because there are some people who have had additional cross tribe like friendships. Like Jamie came into this not
Mm-hmm.
merge being like, I know the more people than anyone else, so everyone should be scared of me. And it's kind of like that kind of idea of some people, you know, do already know a lot more people.
Yeah, which is even harder because, okay, Carolyn went on a journey. She met Danny Brandon, but they didn't really vibe there on their feast journey, which is harder also because then she's coming into this fake merge with only two other people that she's met, Josh and Jam Jam, because everyone else got voted out. And then Josh also has his original green team. So it's like you're really coming down with no numbers and barely any connection. So you have to work overtime in order to, oh, chat with people, ask them about their lives, get in their good graces, which, like she said, yeah, the small talk is hard because it feels so fake.
Yeah, and especially if you know that these people are eventually going to try to stab you in the back, it's kind of like difficult because what else are you supposed to do? You know, you
Because
know
you
that
don't want
it's
to
a fake
feel like,
relationship.
yeah, you don't want to feel like you're just kissing up to the people because you're in the minority here.
Yeah, but mm, I do think it's interesting because like Carolyn's discomfort with the new merge tribe didn't really need to be shown here and now, like in this episode. So it definitely seems to be building her up to be like she was already a big character this season, but it definitely seems like they're building her up to like be an even bigger character. So yeah.
Yeah, it feels very deja vu of the premiere episode when she felt left out, then she was able to get in. Hopefully, here it's a similar thing. She's left out at the beginning or feels left out, and then she's able to get in after a couple days. The numbers get smaller, and she's able to find those connections and find her footing. But speaking of connections, we once again see Matt and Franny flirting. They are holding hands in the shelter, so scandalous. But I do wish, similar to, oh, Josh has 9 lives, we gotta vote Josh out. I wish we got more content from Franny and Matt that isn't all about their showmance. Every single week, we get a showmance clip that's literally the same thing each time. Like, oh, I'm so nervous about being with this person. Oh, we're going to hang out in the real world. Oh, da da da. And it's like, okay, all of their content is showman's content and them flirting every episode. They both seem like fine people, but their character arcs on Survivor right now are so 2D that, like, give them something else to make them 3D. Like, we don't just need the showmance from them.
It's not a character arc, it's a character line. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the only reason this could be like relevant is the fact that like their showmance is the only part of them that like actually is relevant to the greater story. So, yeah.
Maybe. I'm like, they both seem very fun. They give good confessionals. Maybe, hopefully, they can get some other content besides them flirting all of the time in the episodes. Because I would like to see, okay, like their thoughts on different things. Who are they bonding with besides each other? Like, I don't know. Every single episode, it's just like, yeah, we need to stay apart from each other. Let's not pretend like let's pretend like we're not so close. So who else are you talking to? You're forming other connections if you're not hanging out with each other. Let's see them.
Well, it's also kind of like they keep saying the same thing, but not actually doing the same thing. Where it's like, if you keep saying, oh, we need to stop talking to each other, but you say that every like 2 days, it's like, have you ever actually stopped talking to each other?
So we get to the immunity challenge. They randomly draw rocks for this. Team 1 is Carson, Matt, Franny, Carolyn, Jamie, and Brandon. Team 2 is Heidi, Danny, Lauren, Jam Jam, Josh, and Kane. Literally just seeing the team 1 and team 2 split, I was like, oh, team 1 is probably going to win. Not even from Carson doing the puzzle, but I'm like, Brandon's strong. He can probably lift the whole boulder himself. He doesn't need anyone else on the team. And then, okay, seeing the tree puzzle at the end, I was like, wait, isn't this one that Carson has done before from an earlier episode when they showed him 3D printing puzzles? So once Carson got to the puzzle, it was literally a done deal. From whatever tribe he was put on, he could do that puzzle in 10 seconds.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, this was kind of a blowout, which isn't as fun to watch because I thought it was funny. Jeff made a point of commenting on how even the two teams looked, and I was like, Jeffrey, no. So
Carson did that puzzle so fast, which is very impressive because he just had the puzzle pieces memorized, didn't even need to look at a piece, try to fit in a spot, put it in a different spot. Like someone who has never done the puzzle before will have to pick up pieces, try pieces, sort of do that guess and check work here. But it's literally the exact same puzzle that he's done a million times before, like he said. So he just picks up a piece, instinctively knows where it goes, doesn't have to do any of that time wasting guess and check work, trying to see what pieces fit where, visualizing the puzzle. But I do wonder, because Carson did the puzzle so quickly, if he should have faked it a little bit and went a little bit slower to lower that threat level, maybe messed up some pieces, at least acted like he was trying to think about it and play with pieces and put things in the wrong spot. But literally from what we saw, pick up a piece, put it in, take a piece from Matt and put it in. Didn't even need Matt to be there on the puzzle.
yeah, I guess probably, unless you're thinking about lowering your threat level intentionally, that's probably not what's going through in your mind when you're high on adrenaline trying to win, especially at the merge-ish episode where the stakes are pretty high. So it's kind of like, maybe if he was actively seen as a threat, because I think one of the interesting things about Carson is, even though a lot of people, a lot of fans, see him as a strategic threat and as a puzzle threat, I don't think we've seen any content of any of the other players being like, oh yeah, Carson is a big threat. So
yeah, he's definitely doing a good job of oh, I'm just young, bring me along with you, that kind of attitude. And definitely not going through his head oh, I should do this slower to fake it so it doesn't look that bad that I'm doing it so quickly to get that target on my back. But I do wonder if it's raised any red flags for anyone else. Okay, how did he do that puzzle so quick? Do we need to vote him out because he could beast individual immunity challenges that have puzzles in them? I think similar to Matthew with the snake puzzle that he built in his backyard, he just said that in front of everyone that he builds these things, whereas Carson didn't tell everyone and he's keeping that private. I feel like it's just the excitement that got to them, and Carson's not going to be thinking, yeah, let me fake it, but let me just do the puzzle and let me win. But I do wonder if anyone was questioning, oh, yo, this guy's really good at puzzles. Maybe we need to vote him out sooner because he could do well in individual immunities that are puzzles.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see because I feel like the early merge immunity challenges normally aren't puzzles. They're normally all like the endurance-based challenges because those are the ones that are easier for production to set up. And so I wonder if people aren't going to like remember the whole puzzle thing because there's so many endurance challenges. And so in the endurance challenges, the more important people to get out are the like people who are good at endurance. So I feel like one of the things about Survivor is even though there's a pretty solid pattern of like, their endurance puzzles and or endurance challenges, and then we start moving into the more physical puzzle type challenges, people don't really think about puzzle threats unless it's really early in the game or really late in the game.
Yeah. So good for Carson. He's got this puzzle down so good, so fast at this puzzle. Time for Alyssa and I to memorize this one because
Yeah.
definitely very helpful for Carson to just win it for his team, even though they were a little bit behind, caught up, and then beasted this puzzle and is safe. So honestly, even if people are trying to target him because he did the puzzle very fast, like he's safe. He made it to the merge. That's all that truly matters. He made it another couple of days, but I would have wanted a confessional. Was anyone questioning why he did it so quickly?
Yeah. But, we had to hear about how Josh has 9 lives. So,
Speaking of Josh, we get to see Josh versus Jam Jam. Team 1 wins, which is Carson, Matt, Franny, Carolyn, Jamie, Brandon. So Team 2 loses. So Heidi, Danny, Lauren, Josh, Jam Jam, and Kane are on the chopping block. We see Josh and Jam Jam sort of fighting this episode some more. I thought Jam Jam's confessional, where he says, like, yo, what's the issue? We both betrayed each other. Why are we still fighting? That was the truth. Because, like, literally, Jam Jam betrayed Josh by voting for him while faking trying to be aligned with him. Josh also went behind Jam Jam's back to vote for Sarah, which I guess maybe in Josh's mind, he saw, okay, Jam Jam betrayed me first, so me voting for Sarah was just like the counter reaction to him betraying me, and that's why Josh is so angry about it. But like technically both of them voted for like each other's alliance member. They should try to repair that bond.
I don't know. It's weird to me because Josh only seemed to want to get back in with Jam Jam because he heard that his name was on the block. And it's kind of like if you're only trying to be friends with someone because you're worried that you might go home, like that's a little too late. Like you should have started repairing the relationship earlier and not just because of a last minute scramble.
Which maybe that's a fault on, I guess, Josh's game here because he was voted out. And Jam Jam doesn't need that relationship anymore because he's gone. But it's like, okay, sure, you can say if your bond is too fractured to even repair it, then you have to target that person because the bond can never be repaired. You're never, ever, ever going to work with each other. So might as well target them and try to get them voted out. But if your bond isn't that fractured and maybe it could still be repaired, then you should try to repair that bond.
Yeah. Oh well, there's no bond left to repair now, so
It is not needed. So we get the Three Stooges alliance, which is Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Carson. They were on OG Purple together. Carson, to me, seems to be in a pretty good spot coming into this merge area now. Carson seems to be good with Orange. We saw that scene where Carson is telling like Brandon and everyone about the advantage that he got. And then he has this secret alliance with Carolyn and Jam Jam here, trying to keep the OG purples on the DL. So I liked what Carson said in confessional. Okay, I'm going to let the big players go at each other, and then later I'm going to scoop up all of the leftovers and try to create my own alliance. I feel like, especially in this new era of Survivor, that's really how we've seen people win. Erica, Marianne, it's like you just sort of stay in the shadows until final 6-5, make a big move, and then win at the end.
yeah. And I think that one of the things that people have argued about like that new Survivor strategy is that it doesn't make it fun to watch because
Mm-hmm.
like the characters that you get really attached to early on in the season are the ones who end up going like mid to late merge because they're too big of threats. And so I guess one of the reasons I'm not really big on like Carolyn's winner chances is because she's been so visible, and normally the people who are visible early on in the game are not the ones who end up winning. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I personally think Carson's stock went up a little bit this episode. We see he's in with a lot of people. If he's just trying to do, okay, potentially a boring TV strategy as like stay under the radar, just make one big move, and then just sell that one big move at Final Tribal Council, boring for us as viewers, but we've seen that can be a very good winning strategy in modern Survivor. So it really only matters if you win the show. It doesn't really matter if you make good TV or not. If you just want to win, maybe if you want to get invited back, if you're not going to win, then you want to make good TV so you're more likely to be invited back, which maybe that's a flaw with modern Survivor is if you're trying to win, you're going to just play it safe, play under the radar. There's no need to rock the boat this early because then you're going to get voted out final 8, 7, 6 or even final 4 at the fire making challenge. A lot of the biggest players go home there. So just manage your threat level and don't really do too much until you can make that one big move.
I do think that like Marianne at least was more of an out there big personality player than like Erica as far as like winners and being big personalities not necessarily being compatible in New Age Survivor. So I guess it's just a line to walk. So it's interesting to see how kind of the strategy of the game evolves. And I think part of it is the advantages and stuff make it a lot easier for the big name players to go home because there's a lot more room to maneuver for like making those like flashy moves. Like I think if Boston Rob tried to play his winning game in the advantage get-in atmosphere of modern Survivor, he would not win just because there would be so much more room for the underdog. All you need is one big play to get out someone who's a big threat, you know? So consistent under the radar gameplay is easier because it's not like someone's going to get off their one shot and aim it at you.
Exactly. So with Carson also, we see him bonding with Kane. They were close on the Orange Tribe together. Carson tells Kane, hey, yeah, your name is coming up sort of as a plan B. What are you going to do? That's a little bit sketch. Kane, low-key though, throwing Carson under the bus when Kane goes and tells Brandon, yeah, Carson told me I'm the decoy vote. I don't want to be the decoy vote here. Carson, I feel like played it off well though. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, Brandon. I made such a big mistake. I'm just young and dumb. I think he really played it off well though. Even though Carson was telling Kane in a strategic way to bond with Kane and he didn't really want Kane to go home. But I think he played it off really well with Brandon. Like, oh, I'm just so confused. I don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't really understand why Carson told Kane that he was the name because it's like, what do you gain from this? Like, what do you gain? And it did seem to kind of cause some friction between him and other people. So
I feel like if done right, telling your alliance member that they're potentially going to be the vote or a decoy vote, or Kane could have easily went home if Josh had a real idol. Like giving that information is very helpful. So now Kane might feel a little bit indebted to Carson. Kane might feel closer to Carson in that nerd alliance, sort of like solidifying that relationship. Just like I feel like in real life, you're more close to people that maybe have been vulnerable with you or you've told them something about yourself. So I feel like here, Carson telling Kane, maybe his intention was like, let me get Kane to trust me more. I'm going to keep Kane, try to solidify and strengthen our nerd alliance here. But maybe a little bit backfired with Kane throwing him under the bus with Brandon. But I could see his intent there to try to get Kane more on his side.
yeah, I guess I am interested to see how big of a player Kane ends up being in the future, just because it seems like Kane is one of those players that we're shown as more of a character than as a strategic person. Like Kane's whole thing is like, I'm a D&D nerd, ha 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 ha. So
The
yeah,
preview for next week is that exact same thing too.
exactly, which is why it was on my mind.
Yeah, which is like back to the Franny Matt is all showmance. Kane is all D&D, him wiggling the sword around. It's like these people have more things about them than their one like personality shtick. But
Yeah.
good for Kane, though. Technically, he did get all of the votes off of himself as the second vote getter and back onto Jam Jam as the second highest vote getter. So Carson telling Kane technically did work because Kane, good for him. We saw him talking to some people. He was somehow able to get all of the votes off of himself, so he wasn't the decoy vote. So I do wonder, like, at the merge feast, we saw people throwing Kane under the bus. Like, Kane is sketchy. Kane looks at me weird. So I do wonder, okay, is Kane getting back in with these people socially, or do they still think he's odd and don't want to work with him? And they just switched the votes back to Jam Jam because it was easier. Because Jam Jam from Purple doesn't really have anyone besides Carolyn. You're pissing off less people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, again, it's kind of a moot point at the end. Maybe because we as viewers know that Josh doesn't have an idol, so there's not really any tension. Like, I would almost have liked it better if we didn't see the scene last week, where like Jam Jam and Carolyn called out Josh's fake idol. Like, I would have liked better if we as the viewers were unsure whether or not Josh's idol was fake or real, because I feel like that would have actually added tension to this episode. Whereas this episode, they're like, Josh, and we have a backup if Josh has an idol, but we know that Josh doesn't have an idol, so we know it's going to be Josh.
So the whole backup plan doesn't really matter because it's like, okay, Kane or Jam Jam, who cares? Because Josh doesn't really have one, which I guess like it would be interesting what you're saying. They would keep us in the dark whether idols are real or fake, which would literally just be like Sarah thinking her idol is real and getting voted out and doing that end confessional saying she has a real idol. I don't know. I feel like it'd be a little bit angering maybe if they were trying to trick us as the viewers as well, but maybe instead of including that scene last week they did it this week and did like a flashback instead or something like that to keep the tension up, and then they flash back like right at tribal council like, yeah, this idol is fake. So you have that tension throughout the episode, like, oh, could Kane go home, could Jam Jam go home, rather than like completely keeping us in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, just in general, I feel like this episode lacked some tension. It wasn't like a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that next episode is maybe a little bit better.
So we get to tribal council. Tribal council nowadays is just one big analogy or metaphor central. So fast forward because everyone is just speaking mumbo jumbo. Literally, it's so random, and you could just pull stuff out of your butt and try to make it into some analogy metaphor, and Jeff will eat it up.
Yeah. Matt's whole metaphor about like skiing in confetti, I was confused by. Like, okay.
It literally makes no sense. There's some Reddit threads of like sort of poking fun and making their own analogies, which is really funny to read because they're all just so random. Like, Survivor is like eating food blindfolded while hanging upside down on monkey bars underwater. Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, you just need to make a really complicated analogy and with like 8 different parts, and yeah.
Exactly. So Matt, he doesn't have a vote at this tribal council, which doesn't really matter because he was safe this episode because his team won the merge reward. And so it doesn't also really matter because it's a large majority. It's not like his vote was needed and it was like a 7-5 split and they needed his vote there. So maybe that's another negative about the split tribal council where 6 safe, 6 on the chopping block. You're probably going to have a big majority vote at this tribal council. It's not going to be as spicy as if all 12 people were up for elimination. It's like Matt's vote wasn't needed here. It wasn't like Franny was about to get voted out and they needed one more vote to save Franny. It's like, okay, Matt's not voting. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Like, they tried to make it relevant when they were like, when Matt was like, I need to be in as big of a majority as possible. But again, we knew that the majority of the votes were going to Josh. So
I wonder if anyone even noticed that only 11 votes were in there because Jeff doesn't read all 11. So after you hit majority, he stops reading. So people wouldn't even know one person didn't vote.
Yeah.
But Josh finally gets voted out after this couple episode arc. So many mentions this episode of how Josh was supposed to be voted out on green, supposed to be voted out on purple. Finally, he gets his torch snuffed. Sort of episode. It's what we said last week on the Wrestle Muscle TV podcast. He got too much screen time recently, which was a red flag, honestly. But I feel like Josh had a good couple episode arc here of his, I guess, straight downfall. He thought he was on the rise, but actually, in reality, it was just straight downfall.
Yeah. Poor guy.
But I'm glad Jam Jam is safe. He is so funny in confessionals. I need to see Jam Jam and Carolyn be able to mend their relationship and come back together and work together again. So I'm really glad Jam Jam didn't get voted out here.
Me too. I like him. I think he's a good character. So
yeah, so I am excited for next week. What, Final 11? It should be a good one. Everyone hopefully is up for elimination. And I agree, Ben, in the chat, Josh really should have gone home last week because having that just break of Josh should have went home last week. Josh should have went home the week before. Josh finally going home here really, like you're saying, did stop the momentum. Should have just voted someone out last week as well, so he could have had someone else go home this week.
yeah, but Jam Jam wanted to skip this week too, so
Survivor, no votes. Everyone just stays until the end, and then they all vote for the winner.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Did you think it was sort of an episode, or did you really like this Earn the Merge? Are you tired of the Earn the Merge twist? Would you rather just go back to a regular merge rather than having this half safe, half not safe? Are there any ways that you would change up the Earn the Merge to make it better? Because it seems like it's here to stay. So definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you all so much for watching. We will see you all next time.